right, we have a good amount of folks on the call, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I just wanted to say a quick hello. My name is Olivia Wolfson. I work in the UR Alumni Relations Office, and we're so excited to partner with D-Hall today to bring you guys cookie decorating. I just wanted to go over a few quick things before I hand things over to Wendy to do the demo. She's going to show us how to make some lovely festive holiday sugar cookies. But just a few housekeeping notes. Please keep your microphone on mute so that everyone can hear Wendy throughout the call. And you're also welcome to have your video on or off, whichever you're most comfortable with. We are recording this demo, so if you don't want to be recorded, just make sure your camera's off. And then we also recommend utilizing the speaker view function, which is located in the top right-hand corner of your screen, so that when Wendy is speaking, she'll be the largest video for you, and you can see how she's decorating the cookies in more detail. And if you have any questions throughout the call, please feel free to use the chat function, and we will do our best to get them all answered throughout the demo. I can read them off to Wendy as she is showing us how to decorate the cookies. And without further ado, I would love to introduce Wendy and let her take things away.
Great, thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Wendy Peterson. I am one of the lead bakers at the dining hall here, and I've been with the university about 11 and a half years. Fabulous place. And today we are going to ice some cookies. I'm going to show you royal icing and the different techniques and different things that you can do with it. So first off, I've got some cookies already done. I don't know if you can see them here. Whoop. But I've got different stages of the cookies, and I guess Tyler had sent recipes to all of you for cookie dough and royal icing. You can use any kind of cookie that you like. Some people like gingerbread cookie, butter cookie, sugar cookies, or even store-bought cookies, whatever works for you, and cut them in any shape that you like. So I'm going to go ahead and start the royal icing, and I've got 1 cup of egg whites that I've had at room temperature, and you want to kind of, if you can get them at room temperature, let them sit out for a bit. You'll get a higher volume out of them when you whip them. For royal icing, if you can't, you know, if you think of it last minute, it's not a big deal. You can still whip them when they're cool. So you want to make sure you have them in your bowl with a whip. You can also do this by hand if you're brave enough. It'll take a while, but it can be done. So put your egg whites in your mixing bowl. I'm going to turn it on to a medium high and kind of get the egg whites to be frothy and foamy. That takes about a minute, maybe not quite a minute. Let's make that 20 seconds. And then I'm going to add about 2 pounds of sifted powdered sugar. Sounds like a lot of sugar. I like, when I make royal icing for decorating cookies, I like to make it thick, almost like what you would use as glue for a gingerbread house. That way, when you divvy it up into bowls to color it, you can thin it to the consistency that you want, as opposed to making 2 batches, one for piping and one for flooding, which I'll show you what that means. So I'm going to turn the mixer off, add my sugar. You can add it all at once. And when you turn it back on, make sure you turn it on really slow so that you're not wearing your powdered sugar. It can get messy. So you want to turn it on low just till all the sugar gets wet. And then you can increase the speed. Then you can continue adding more sugar. You really want to make sure that you sift the powdered sugar because sometimes the sugar has lumps, and if they're little tiny lumps, they don't always break up with the whip in the mixer. And you'd hate to be piping something out and then get a piece stuck in your bag, and it really becomes a pain. So sift your powdered sugar. So while that's whipping, there are a few different types of bags that you can use. You can buy the cloth plastic bags that work really well. You can use disposable bags. You can buy these at the store. Usually they're a little smaller, but those work well as well. You can, if you don't have either of those, you can make a bag with parchment paper just by folding it towards you and wrapping it around to make a cone. And then you would adjust it to make a very small, close up the tip. That way you can cut it to any size that you want. That's one way. And if you don't have either of those, but you have a freezer bag, that always works. And freezer bags work better because they're thicker. And you can put your pastry strips into the corner of the bag. Cut the tip off a little bit so you have some of the pastry tip sticking out. Fill it with your icing or frosting. And then there you go. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use it. I'm just going to kind of scrape the sides of the bowl, any powdered sugar that has gathered up there. A little bit more sugar. And coloring, when you want to do different colors, you can buy the liquid food coloring. There's a gel paste, a liquid gel, and then little containers of paste you can buy. All three of those work really well. The one good thing about making the royal icing really stiff from the get-go is when you do add your color, if you add the liquid coloring to it, obviously that's going to thin it down, so you wouldn't have to add as much water if you wanted it even thinner, whereas with the gel and the paste, it's thicker, so you would have to add more water to get the consistency that you're looking for. So this is almost ready. Now it's not going to get the volume that you would get if you were whipping a meringue because you've added so much sugar. And then I will show you. I don't know if you can see, it's pretty thick. You could even go thicker than that if you wanted to, but that's pretty thick. So depending on what your cookies are, how many different colors you want to make, you can divvy up the icing into different bowls. And I've done that prior to this. So I have some bowls with a little bit of the thick royal icing. You always want to cover it with plastic wrap because it does dry out. That's kind of what we like about the royal icing. When you're piping it on a cookie, it will dry to a hard shell, which is nice if you have to stack them or if you're going to package them and give them as gifts. Whereas if you did a buttercream, that doesn't set as stiffly. So this is pretty thick. And that's good. So the first one I can show you is I have these large snowflakes. I left one plain. I outlined one in the royal icing, and that would be the thicker icing. And then I filled it in with a technique called flooding. And that's just a thinner version of what you would pipe. And I will show you that. So what you'll need is a lot of spoons, a lot of small bowls, and anything that you want to use to decorate, whether it just be different colors of the royal icing, any kind of sprinkle, sanding sugar, which is like the thicker sugar. And I've got a few here. I've got some green and a mixture of different blues. Really, whatever it is you want, be creative, have fun. You know, there's all fun kinds of edible glitter. So, yeah. So I'm going to use my little bag that I made because I'm just going to pipe a small amount. And you want to hold the bag in your hand and take a spoonful of your frosting and just press it into the bottom and use your thumb to kind of scrape off what's on the spoon. And one of the good things about if you're going to flood one of your cookies, you can let it dry and then you can go back and pipe something on top and not have it spread into the icing, which I'll show you with one of these. So what you're going to do with the little bag, now if you don't have this and you want to use the pastry bag, you would fill that in. There's hundreds of different styles of pastry tips. I have a number 3 plain tip, which is very small, which would be perfect for outlining any cookie. So I would just fill the bag, same as I did with the paper one. And you want it thick, but you don't want it so stiff that you're using a lot of pressure to get it out of the bag, because you want it to just kind of flow from the tip, the pastry tip. And then I usually put it in and then I twist it, and that kind of keeps it all down towards the tip, and I'll have more, I'll be able to apply the pressure around the frosting. So you can kind of see how it comes out. It's pretty thick. And then you just want to, I'm just going to outline this, and you can just follow the edges. And you just want to let it fall from the tip. You don't have to be right up against the cookie. You just want to let it fall and flow out of the tip. Now, once this is piped on and it's wet, if you wanted to add sprinkles or any of the edible glitter to this while it's wet, you can do that. Let me grab it. So, for example, I want to put the blue sprinkles, and I want it just on the outside. I would just take them and put them on. Maybe that's not a good example, but and just kind of get them on the icing. Let's try the glitter instead. So sprinkle that on and it will set onto the icing. So you could put a lot on, and because you don't have any frosting on the cookie, it's not going to stick to the cookie and you can just shake it off. So it'll just stay on what you've piped. And then you just tap it off and it'll just stay around the edges. So now if you want to flood, which is, or just fill in the cookie, you would take your icing and add water to it. I have probably a half a cup of the icing in here. I would start with maybe 2 teaspoons of water and just stir that. You can always add more water. And then you're just going to, you want it to be fluid and smooth, and maybe a little more, so that when you do put it on your cookie, it just kind of lays and falls in the cookie flat. Okay, so that's pretty fluid. Now, if you wanted to color that, I'll take some of this. You can put your coloring in. I'm going to do a little light blue. And this is a liquid gel, so I would start with maybe 1 drop because it's pretty concentrated. And then kind of stir that. And I'm going to add a little bit more water. So now when you flood, you can put it in a bag, or you can just spoon it in. Sometimes that's easier. So you just want to put some in the center and kind of use the spoon to brush it in the different corners. And then I take a toothpick and I just kind of use that to get it into any little crevice or corner. And if it's thin enough, it'll lay flat. The cookies can be time consuming, but it really makes the difference between just a regular cookie and, you know, a work of art for you, and people appreciate that. And so you want to make sure, kind of give it a little shake, and you might get an air bubble or two. Just use your toothpick and you can kind of poke it.
Hey, Wendy.
Yes.
We had one question come in.
Yeah.
So this question is, when doing the icing outline on the cookie and you have shaky or unsteady hands, is there a trick or hack on how to steady your hand and avoid wavy or broken lines?
You can always fill in the lines. If you plan on flooding the cookie, you can kind of go over any mistakes or shakiness that you have on the outline. That's what's so great about it. You can just go over it again, and you know, that should do it. And sometimes, you know, snowflakes or anything aren't perfect, so you have just a little imperfections. You can either cover it up if you wanted with sprinkles or something, but just going over it again can help with that. And it's one of those, you know, your first cookie, you might think, oh, not so bad, but when you're on your 12th or 15th cookie, you'll be like, wow, that really looks good. You know, the more you do, you'll get less shaky. So I'm gonna put on another tip. This is the number 2 plain tip. And I'm gonna pipe right onto the cookie I just flooded. And again, you're gonna use just a little bit of pressure so that it falls from the tip. You don't wanna drag it. You just kind of let it fall on its own, and you're just gonna guide it to where you want it to go. As you can see, I'm just going from corner to corner. And if you can see, the blue is kind of just laying right into the white that I just flooded. So it all looks like one layer. And then you can just pipe any design on it that you like. Okay, so then just give it a little tap and it will all kind of fall into place. Now, if you wanted to draw on one that's already set, you can do the same thing, but it'll be raised. And there's different designs that you could do. You could just go all around. Take a toothpick and just kind of brush it in. I mean, you could put sprinkles on the edges. It's really, you can just be as creative as you want to be. So there you go. And then some of the Christmas trees. I've baked one with sugar. If you wanted to use sanding sugar, the best way to do that so that it stays on would be to put it on the cookie before you bake it. That way it gets baked in. Or you could flood your cookie with icing and then put it on there. That would work as well. So you, like I said, you can do any color, any sugars. Let's see, I'm gonna maybe make some string of lights. We're just gonna zigzag up the tree. And I'll use a little glitter. Sprinkle that on there. Then it looks like you have Christmas lights on there. Let's see. We can do a gingerbread man. I'm going to color this with some red.
We had one more question come in,
Okay.
and that is the white gingerbread man that's on display. Did you pipe a border, flood, and then pipe decorations on top of the flooding?
Yes. Yes. You can, if your flooding is not as thin as you want, you can just put that on your cookie and kind of push it to the edges with a spoon. But a lot of these, we pipe a border around and then we flood it. And then you can either wait until that flooding sets if you wanted something raised, or you can, you know, like the snowflake, you can pipe it right on the wet flooding. All right, let's see. Maybe I'll get some brown. So really you can do, you know, anything. It's all a matter of, sorry, I got red coloring all over my hand. Yeah, it's whatever you want to do, however comfortable you are. Being creative. So again, with doing the outline, you just want to let it flow from the tip. All the way around the edge. So you really don't want to rush it and just try to drag it, then you won't get a smooth line. And then if you, again, like if you have a shaky hand and you just want to go back and cover it in, that's really all it takes. Let's see, I'll do some brown. And the royal icing, it sets fairly quick. I would say within 15 to 20 minutes, it would be set. So if you were doing a large amount, or not even a large amount, but if you wanted to flood a bunch and then go back and pipe over it, you would flood as many as you want, and then you could go back and pipe onto that. But they will, and they'll stay. Sometimes I've noticed that, I don't know if it's with this paste, but the red coloring to me has a tendency to bleed more when it's flooded or mixed with, you know, on top of a flooding, but that just seems to be the red. Not sure why, but. I'm gonna flood the gingerbread man. In my bag, and it's still thick enough that it's not gonna run out of the bag, so you won't have to worry that it's just gonna run all over. And then you just wanna kind of trace the outline. And just kind of fill it in. And then you're gonna go back with a toothpick and just kind of swirl it to cover all the spots. Okay. And then you can, you know, pipe your you wanted to pipe buttons, or if you had little, little silver balls, you could put buttons. Make little eyes. And then sometimes if you have it in the tip, you want to, if you hadn't used it in a cookie or two, sometimes it'll start to crust around the tip. Just kind of take your finger and wipe the tip off. And then take a little of the pink. I don't have a bag for that, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it on a toothpick, and you can kind of let it drip on there. Okay. And then, let's see. We've got another cookie. Could do a tree. I'll do an outline again. And then I'll flood it. So you can really do anything.
And Wendy, do you mind holding up some of them a little closer to the camera so we can see some of the designs?
Sure.
Thank you.
Here's one of the snowflakes. And here's another one. Here's a tree. And then some of these gingerbread men that we did. We have our little Santa. So there's really really a lot that you can do, whatever. And you know, it doesn't even have to be Christmas cookies either. Any holiday. Oh. Here's some green. I'm going to put this into the freezer bag to show you. I just want to push it towards the tip. And then I'm just going to pipe. I'm just kind of letting it fall from the tip and just moving my hand slowly. Oops. not always the best way with the freezer bag, but, and then I'm just gonna take a toothpick and kind of run up the center. And then you can sprinkle some little nonpareils on there to make it look like lights. There. And there's a little tree. I do have this one. Another snowflake, so I'll just outline this again. And I'll sprinkle some of these on the edge. And you have an outline. Have another cookie. Are there any other questions? Or would you like to see something else?
Yeah, if anyone has any last questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I can ask Wendy. All right. I don't think there's any more, Wendy, so thank you so much. Everyone's saying that they're very beautiful, so thank you for.
We'll have fun.
Great tip.
It is
and
fun.
Then, yes, thank you so much for your time, Wendy. And I just wanted to say thank you all for joining us. And I hope you'll tune in for some more upcoming programs, including tomorrow's jazz performance by Little Big Band. And just remember to check out our Facebook, Instagram, and the alumni website for further information and to stay up to date on what's coming next. And we hope to see you soon. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, go Spiders, have a wonderful New Year and holiday. And thank you guys so much for joining us. And thanks again to Wendy for taking the time to show us how to decorate these cookies.